Welcome to the Atlanteans, a podcast about Warmachine and the Iron Kingdoms, created by the Hampton Roads Atlantean gaming community. And now to our hosts. Hey guys, welcome to episode 7 of the Atlanteans. This is Jay. Alec, how you doing?
I am doing well, man. It has been a minute since both of us got to get together.
Yep.
And I am happy to be streaming with you again, or to be doing a video with you again.
Yeah.
I am streaming here.
Yep, Alec is streaming, so if you hear us, we do have, there's some people that could ask Alec questions on his stream, and so if you hear us talking to someone off between not the two of us, he's answering questions on his stream, and I may be answering some questions on his stream because I have it up as well.
Well, so Jay, where have you been and where have I been for the past month? I know that I did do a video with Joe while you were gone, covering down a little bit at the end of Nova and stuff like that.
Yeah, I went on vacation. I was in Arizona, Utah, and I ended up in Colorado for the last day. And I'm basically doing the Grand Canyon, Arches, basically all the national monuments and national parks and things like that in that area, in the Southwest.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes, it was great. Lots of inspiration, took a lot of photos. So one of the things I struggle to do at events is I struggle to take enough pictures and take enough pictures of people playing games and take pictures of the whole group at the end that participated. But I took a lot of photos on this trip, and I'm going to use a lot of that stuff as inspiration going forward, I think.
Good. I'm glad, man. I'm really glad you got to get out and hang out with your family and you go to some really awesome places.
Yep.
I have not been gone for as many fun reasons. I had some health issues and some real world life events that were taking priority. But it's okay. Those are hopefully better. And I'm hoping to be streaming. I have streamed while you were gone, like on my Twitch channel, which is Wracked and Confused, which is a joke between one of my favorite movies and The Protector of Menoth.
You do 2 or 3 streams a week?
I try to do 2 streams a week.
Okay.
But what I really need to do, I've been capturing them, but I don't want to just drop them up on our YouTube channel. What I really need to do is probably start up my own separate YouTube channel just for my painting streams.
Absolutely.
And put them up there. But it's been one of those things that it takes time to do everything, and I don't want to just do it haphazard. So I capture my streams, and probably when I have enough streams that I can have them come in 2 to 3 times a week for a YouTube video, then I will probably have the YouTube channel go live.
Yeah, I have one of these days I will get back to streaming. And I'm Big Nerdy Gamer on Twitch, and I do actually have a Big Nerdy Gamer YouTube channel that I was doing some Warmachine stuff with when they first announced Mark IV, and then I sort of got burnt out really fast and haven't gone back. I really need to start streaming and doing like painting videos and stuff, but I don't feel like my streaming camera is good enough to really do the quality of video I want to do. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, the current camera is actually mine, and I will be doing some painting tonight. We're just sort of doing the intro and some chatting. And for those of you that are streaming, watching the stream, it's obvious it's Alec's camera for that. And then for those of you that are doing YouTube, you got to use your imagination, sorry. And we'll do our best to describe what we're doing and what we're painting. So what are you working on?
I'm painting the Avatar of Menoth, and right now I'm using a ghost brush, and I'm using a number 2, which is a synthetic brush, and then I am using coal black as I'm going to be doing some of the smokestacks and the
very cool
the furnace for this Avatar of Menoth. Awesome. I need to actually start getting into doing my my overlays, but it's funny. I give Ice King flack about it all the time. I'm like, use the overlays, and I didn't set up my overlays tonight. I'm hoping, as Jay did mention about the camera, I'm hoping that at the end of this year or beginning of next year
Mm-hmm.
to be getting a really nice, fancy streaming camera so that
Very
we
cool.
can start doing battle reports from above.
Mm-hmm.
So we can do not as we actually. I don't. Do you want to touch on how many times you tried to do this tonight?
This is, I think, try 3, if I'm not
This is
mistaken.
try three. Uh,
Yeah.
just different things happening on each end.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm hoping that in the future we can get together at either my house or someone's
Mm-hmm.
house and set up these cameras and do some
Definitely.
battle reports because like don't get me wrong, it's fun to watch War Table as
Yep.
Jay has mentioned before, but I
Mm-hmm.
think watching us play and having a dice box that we both roll into
Mm-hmm.
so that people can see, and then also seeing the
Yep.
the pieces moving along the board, and with if I do the camera I want, I believe it's called the ZF1 or Z51. I'd
I think it's a
ask.
51 is what you said before.
So Z51, I think, is what it is.
Yep.
It's Ice King is the one who told me about it, and I
Mm-hmm.
have it saved in my Amazon.
Yeah, I have.
But yeah. Oh, good.
I have the same stream camera that Travis uses, Nekozaru.
Hmm.
So I'm able to do some streaming, and like if we needed it as like a dice cam or something for precise overhead, I have a camera that we
Hmm.
can use for that. But I don't feel like it's quite good enough for close in photo quality painting like I would see Ninja or somebody doing.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm going to be going with that is that it'll
Mm-hmm.
give me a better. Right now, I'm using a 4K camera, which is great.
Right.
It's awesome. But it's not going to be the quality I want. And with one of those cameras, I can have it up high.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey, Cookie. We
Hey.
have someone who joined us in the chat. Um, but with having it up high and doing a really, really high quality shot, if we
Mm-hmm.
wanted to in OBS in the future, we could adjust the stream, in the capture, crop it, or not the stream, but the video,
Mm-hmm.
crop in on what one half of the table's doing or going to
Right.
doing it and make it a little bit easier. And it'll make us look more professional. We'll
Mm-hmm.
be fancy.
Fancy.
Fancy
Yep. Yep.
indeed.
Yep.
But
So.
as everything, it
Mm-hmm.
costs money.
It does. Yeah. So I currently have for those of you that are watching us on YouTube, I have Orgoth and Gators in front of me right now. I'm trying to decide what I want to work on. I have one of the my Orgoth characters. So Orgoth is my going to be my winter project army after I'm Richard, one of our viewers, is and one of our friends from our local community is going to be selling me a large portion of his Orgoth army, and I already have most of the casters, a couple of jacks, and some of the named characters that I've been sort of puttering around and working on, and trying to get done to sort of get the army paint scheme going, so that when I actually get the army, I can start like really working on it. Though as soon as all the new Khador stuff that's coming out by November supposedly comes out, I will have to take a break and paint all of that.
Oh, speaking of Richard, hello, Lost Chicken. Welcome to the stream.
Yep.
We were just saying amazing, great things about you and your abilities as a Grimkin player, which is why you are now currently playing Orgoth. That's a joke. That's a joke.
And
He doesn't play
no.
Orgoth.
Well,
Now he's playing Brian Blood.
He's playing Brian Bloods now. He's got one more weekend to Orgoth this weekend. He's going up to the tournament in Maryland on Sunday.
Hmm.
And then he's selling me his Orgoth. So
Very
so
nice.
soon
When
be
are we
my
going to get
Orgoth.
him on?
Um,
I'm wondering when we're going to get him on the stream.
yeah, I think we should have him come on and talk about Brine Bloods, especially as the people are starting to see the Colossal. Did you get your Colossal?
He did get his Colossal. In fact,
Did
he
he?
sent me some pictures of it.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah,
He sent you and not me pictures of it. Come on, man! You should post in the group.
well, I'm trying to convince him to let me both paint as well as do technical effects with resin, because the last time I got to do some really fun resin stuff was with a Kraken while I was in Germany, and
See,
I have been itching to do a slanted scale of one of the new things coming out of
see,
the water.
I'm trying to get him to let me paint his gargantuan, so that maybe I can get some price knocked off the Orgoth that he's selling me.
I mean, I understand that. That's a fair thing. I want to do it just because I hate myself, and I want to purposely make it the most difficult project in the world for me.
And you want stuff to paint on your stream for the next like several months.
That is also something. Maybe SFG will see that I'm not a horrible painter, and maybe when the new Menoth comes out or something, they'll be like, "Oh, hey, there's that guy that's dedicated and he paints our stuff. You know, why don't we let him paint some of this stuff before it's released?" It's a hope. Yep. It's a pipe dream.
Yep.
Yeah, so I guess we're gonna have to fight to see who gets to paint his.
Yeah, you can have it.
All right.
I mean, so you can, if you want, we can tag team it if you want. So you can do the effects. You can do the and I'll add some touch ups I'll add some flair at the end if you want.
Okay, we'll see what he says.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm really excited because I want to have that thing. I asked him if I should have it coming probably a half inch or quarter inch in the water, or if he wants it an inch or 2 inches in the water. Does he want it at a 15-degree angle with the water? So what it was is technically the model would be flat, but the water would be angled in. So starting at like a quarter or a half inch and then coming out to make it look like it's moving forward, and then so you do self-leveling bar resin for the base of it.
I'm familiar with it. And then I'm familiar with sinking stuff in water.
Okay, yeah, that is so much fun, especially when you're putting the plastic in to make it look right. And oh yeah, I enjoy that.
You're gonna have to do some kind of depth. You're gonna have to add a lot of depth to the base, a lot more depth than you probably have to 3D print something specifically designed to have some depth so you can get the kind of depth and the detail you want under the water. But I mean,
funny story.
You have a great printer for that, so.
And hopefully I'll be picking up a third one here end of November, and then also possibly maybe a fourth one sometime next year.
Yeah.
So I can really start doing it.
All right. So Cookie, I know. So let me comment about the Maelstroms. The Maelstrom's coming out in January. No, I will not paint that thing for you. I actually painted some Storm Legion stuff last year, and it was my least favorite thing I've ever painted in my entire life, and I will not paint those models. Sorry.
Oh, that sounds sad.
I don't like painting Storm Legion. They have too many smooth, curved, domed surfaces with not a lot of texture to them.
Well, you could always do the technique where you make it have battle damage by using heat knives and
no. I mean, it's a Maelstrom. It's brand new. It just came off the assembly line. We're talking about the Colossal that's coming out in January.
I mean, you and I have different. I've definitely done battle damage. I mean, think about it. Are you going to keep the new hotness in the back, or are you going to throw it into the fray and let it just go and get the shit kicked out of it?
Well, I mean, it's rumored to have, according to Privateer Press back when they first announced it, the longest spray in the game. So, does it need to be on the front lines to be effective?
I'm wondering if that's still the case. Not that I think SFG would go completely away from where Privateer was planning on taking it, but I don't know if that's still going to be. Things have changed in the past 2 years.
Yeah, that's true.
But the way I look at it, if I ever were to use one, just because I am looking at possibly getting Kane 4? Is it Kane 4?
Yeah, it's 4.
Yeah. Major Kane. I feel like if you had him, he wouldn't have it in the background. He'd be up there with Deuce, or I like to call Ace 2. Yeah. And I feel like he'd have it up there in the front, just going ham with it.
Yeah, there's no question. And there's no question you're getting Kane. Come on.
Oh, I mean, I'm gonna get that just to paint it. Yeah. I have every other Kane that I've painted in the past. It's me. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, it is. And I'll get one at some point myself. My first one is earmarked for when I pick up my box. It's earmarked for Robbie. But you know, if
I mean,
SFG wanted to, send something our way, like they have been some of the other people in our area, and let us like do an actual unboxing and uh, paint. I mean, I'd start my stream back up to get it painted on stream.
I mean, I'd paint it right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. Kador versus Signar, and we'd probably even do our first battle report with it, wouldn't we?
Probably.
We'd make it work.
I mean, definitely. Probably do that in Atlantis if we. I'd pull all
Yeah,
my streaming gear or all my capture gear. We could do it
yeah.
there.
We could do it for sure.
Um, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Um, so, do you want to talk about some of the plans we have before we get into our paintings and why we paint things? Do you want to get into what our upcoming plans are for the store we normally play at, which is
So
the
this past Sunday, I mean, I think we should talk about that some. So this past Sunday,
okay.
so for the month of October, we've been running some narrative events. So Joe, who can't be with us tonight, he's traveling for work. Alec and I have really gotten into running narrative events since we did the siege this summer, and then again at Nova Open, which we've talked about in the last couple of episodes, which was really fun and really exciting, and all of us have sort of gotten that narrative bug. And so this month I wanted to try running a couple of narrative events that used some of the elements that were present in the siege, and then also try mixing it with the format that Andy did with his narrative at Nova Open, because we're in talks to be doing some narrative stuff at Nova next year, along with the Tried and True guys. And so we want to develop some games. And actually, I was listening to the podcast when I was editing it, and you mentioned doing 3D printed bases with cardboard and doing like a city kind of battle. That is straight up my idea as well.
I think that'd be a lot of fun.
And I even have plans of how we do the cardboard. And Mike, who is one of our locals, works for a printing company in the area. So I think we can absolutely do that. And my idea was to be able to use it both as a big narrative game, so we can do a big city with the rubble bases that are the bases, and when you pull the cardboard out of them, they're the rubble afterwards. I think we could totally do a big narrative game like that. But I also want to do a huge base narrative thing at Nova, which is basically Rampage with them as well, and huge base models. Man.
So what I get you're saying is we're going to do Monster Apocalypse with Colossals and a caster and just run through Godzilla style that city.
So I want to do a narrative evening game that way, but I also want to do an actual like battle kind of thing. What I'd really like to do, and I need to talk to Andy about this, is I really want to do linked battles. So like Thursday night is like the intro, and it might be like a skirmish kind of event, or like a 50 point kind of event, and link the games every night or every day together so that it tells a story across the whole weekend of Nova.
I think it'd be a great idea. I love that idea. I actually, so for the pieces when I was talking about that, all I would need to do is hopefully get the cardboard. When Monster Fight Club does their Kickstarters, I normally go or the past, well, I guess I've been doing it since they started. I do their Kickstarters, and I buy their STLs because they normally have an option. Oh, buy our STLs, and that's where you get the adjoining pieces. And with that is how we could do the city. I would just have to figure out how to do the base, like an underlying base, so that when we pull the walls,
I've already started sculpting them.
Oh, well, even better. Well, hopefully by then I'm going to have 4 3D printers, if not more.
Right, exactly.
And,
I mean, I think we have answers.
Yeah, we'll have options, and it'll be fun. So my problem that happens right now is that up until a month ago, I only had one 3D printer.
Right.
Which I shared with my family because I love them.
Right.
Specifically, I shared with my wife. And so my printing time wasn't always my time.
Right.
But then I got a second one, and now hopefully we're going to do a third.
Yep.
And possibly a fourth.
And then Jason, when he's around, has one, and that's usable for terrain and stuff and all. And Taylor also has one that's usable for terrain. And
I'm
they
a
are
bad influence on my friends.
and they are so nice and so amazing that I have, once I get this Orgoth thing paid for that I'm doing with Richard. Thank you, Richard. Then I will also be looking to invest in one in the probably early 2025.
I feel like I'm a bad influence.
Yeah, you are.
I made sure, I didn't make sure, but I was helping originally Jason with his. Now he has an Ender 3 Pro, and
Yeah,
he
I
was having
have
some
I have an Ender, and it just it doesn't stack up to the
it,
what you
yep.
guys have.
And I was printing pieces or like hot end assemblies and stuff, or things to hold his hot end assemblies, and he was having issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just saw how easy it was for me on my bamboo, and then he got one for his wife, and then his wife got one for him,
Yeah.
because that's how you do it. And
Yep.
then I showed Taylor, and Taylor got one, and then I showed one of my wife's coworkers one, and she's probably going to get one, and then
Yeah.
another person I know, and I'm a bad influence.
Yeah, but they've also brought some really good innovations to our club. It allowed us to do. Uh, I, I will say that I'm still not 100% happy how it worked out, but it allowed us to do the siege very easily and quickly and get that processed.
Yeah, we
Oh,
that out between the rubble and the walls and
yeah,
everything else, and then cross loading and filaments and
yeah,
stuff. That got done in a
yeah,
month. All
and
the printing. And then I also did all the buildings too
yeah,
that I gave to the community and
yeah.
stuff.
And then there's
That was
currently innovation in dice trays for the community.
Yep. Let's see. Oh, I printed token trays
Yeah,
for Kristen and Richard, though I left the one for Richard. But when I last came out and I finally saw
yeah,
him in person, I left it with my gaming stuff, which I didn't bring
yeah,
out to the store. So I
yeah.
still have to get out there and give him his.
Yeah, and I might get you to out. I have two of them now, and I have enough insides for three of them. And
Hmm.
I think I need some more insides, so I might have you print me some insides because Taylor's printed all the other ones for me so far.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. That's not
Yeah,
hard at all. I mean, heck, we did the
yeah,
tokens. Those were awesome. The what do you call them for the
yeah,
siege? We
yeah,
gave out those
yeah,
3D printed 80 millimeter bases with
yeah. But
the QR code to our stuff.
I think we're dodging around
Oh,
the
we
thing
are.
we should be talking about, which is the longest night.
Oh, that's right. So what I'm going to be actually printing, hopefully after Halloween here, because my wife is using the printer, I am going to be 3D printing a new base and housing unit for my Fog Monster 2, which is a hypersonic. No, I'm not hyper. Yeah, hypersonic or ultrasonic. Sorry, I always want to call it
Ultrasonic.
hypersonic. Ultrasonic um, humidifier. So it's cold steam that
Mm-hmm.
then gets pushed through the system and it comes out. So it actually doesn't get your model super wet. It doesn't get the table super wet. And we are going to hopefully use that at the longest night so we have steam on the table. Because you take
Gotcha.
that, and then I have LEDs that I put in, and that also some lamps that Jay is working on. And you're going to see a fog move through over the table. At least the probably it's going to be the streaming table. And so you're gonna, or the whatever the premier table is, whatever someone wants to play on.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have the LEDs, the fog, the smoke, the great terrain, and then I'm also gonna, in addition to trying to print this, I have the old 40K Citadel boards, and I've been drilling 20 millimeter holes through them so that it then on the table I built. So I actually built a gaming table. I'm gonna drag that out to Atlantis,
Mm-hmm.
and I am going to put that on the tables and have steam come out of the floor, basically. Well, the game space, steam will be pushing through and come out
Very
instead
cool.
of just coming out of, from behind rocks and stuff.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
normally that's what I do is have it like, oh, come out of this mountain or have it come out of this building, but have it come out of the actual ground where the pieces are going over. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Sounds cool.
That's what I'm doing. And I think that's going to work really well for the longest night. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if I have the time, I'm probably also going to build some more, or print some more buildings, or possibly print more than one of these 3D printed Steam machines.
Yeah, and we'll be running this event on November 16th, which is a Saturday. It's about
You got it right that time.
I know. About 3 weeks away.
Mm-hmm.
Think you're going to be able to get the fog machines and stuff up and running and done in those 3 weeks?
I can get at least one.
Okay.
Because I can print, so the internals are one plate and the external is another plate. So the external, so I'm probably going to test it out first in PLA.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it works out well, I'll print it in PETG just for the added support.
Gotcha.
But it should take me, I think it's like 14 hours for the internals, and it was like 40 something for the external.
Gotcha.
So that's not horrible. It's just trying to make sure that I told my kids that they could be still printing stuff, and I told my wife she could still be printing stuff. But it's just making sure that everything fits, because the STLs that I purchased for doing this, it was basically someone making one from scratch, whereas I'm going to try to make it so it fits in with my fog monster, so I don't waste. The fog monster was $250, $300.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to lose that investment. Also, if it already has all the external components, built into it, so I can just do it with the key fob and do all that, I'd prefer to do that.
Gotcha.
But if I have to do it from scratch and buy a Raspberry Pi and have someone teach me how to do soldering or do better soldering and do all the circuits, I'll do that. But yeah, so I have a little bit over 2 weeks, or a little bit over 3 weeks. Yep. So we'll know. If anything, we'll just have, if it doesn't work out, I'll just switch over to doing terrain, and I'll just make sure we have a lot more terrain and possibly get a game day or a paint day in before we do it. Because I think that doing the paint day for all the buildings was really a thing people enjoyed. And also then I gave the option to people, our viewers don't know this, but I gave the option that either they could donate it to the club or they could keep it themselves. And actually most of the people actually gave it back to the club.
Yeah, and we've been using them as mostly those are the store buildings that we've been playing on in our week-to-week kit, and then I have a bunch more buildings that I've been keeping that are part of the big day event buildings and stuff for the towns that I've been running in the last 2 narrative events that I've done.
Yeah, I think it's really well. I like it. I think other people have liked it. I think for the local players, sitting down at the table and being like, "Oh, I painted that. That's cool." I think that really kind of helps.
Absolutely. So, we've talked about cool stuff that's out and about. One of the other cool things that we've started to see now is the new Crick stuff is out and about. I've seen the first 2 waves of stuff. So the most recent thing that just came out is the Suspiria base box. I've seen people with the Deficus expansion box online have gotten it online. I haven't seen one locally yet.
I have not seen one either. I've only seen people online.
Yep. But
have you played it on your table?
So I've been playing against it for the last couple weeks. JD's been playing it hard in our local meta. And Suspiria is the new Bane units are scary. They are extremely, extremely scary.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I'm not a bad player, I'd like to think.
Yeah.
I have not won a game against the new Cricks.
Yeah, the new Heavy Jack with the Grievous Wounds, POW 18 Axe, it's very easily POW 20 or POW 22 or POW 24, is disgusting, and especially when you can put Enliven on it from the character solo. Yeah. It is very, very, very rough.
Yep. I part of me always goes, and I'm sure our listeners are always like, oh, yep, he's going to mention New Menoth, or as I say sometimes, Zoo Menoth. I'm very much hoping that they come out soon, because I'm not a bad player, and I am getting stomped.
Well, I mean, let's be honest here. You do have a new army on the horizon. You are going to most likely play Gravediggers, and by most likely, I mean you're definitely going to play Gravediggers.
I'm gonna buy them. I'm gonna play them locally, but when I go to a tournament, just because I'm
on.
punishment. Yeah, I'm telling you, no matter how well those guys are painted, I could have taken my wife's Grimkin when I was going to tournaments in Europe, and I didn't. I took what do you call it? Took my men off.
Let's be honest. Because Old Umbry is going to be releasing during Nova next year, so there's no way I'm going to be playing Old Umbry then. There is another mystery army coming in the fall, which we'll probably hear what it is, either at Adepticon or at Gen Con. And that I'm hoping is Menoth.
I'm hoping too.
I think they're setting up Rule because they've been in the fluff a lot recently. I have no insider information whether it's Rule or not, but they have been in the fluff a lot lately.
I'm hoping we get a dedicated mercenaries. I don't remember. I like that we've had mercenaries, but I really want to see. I want to see come back.
I don't think we're going to get a dedicated mercenary army. Like I don't think there'll be mercenary casters because yes, there's a dual format that lets you play 2 casters, but I don't think we're going to see mercenaries like they were in Mark 1 through 3. And to be honest, if you ask like Matt Wilson, they never intended mercenaries to be its own army. I think we'll get a Ord or a most likely a Rule army that used to be mercenaries, that is a new army, a new faction. But I don't think they'll ever be necessarily a mercenary army again. We already have mercenaries now, but they will always be sort of the second fiddle kind of army that they are at the moment. I don't think we're ever going to get an actual, like, these guys are mercenaries that you can use in armies and play as a separate army ever again.
I get that. I really enjoyed when I used to go and pick a different thing and just putting down Magnus and...
Yeah. And there'll be those, I'm sure we'll get to those kind of casters. And I mean, Magnus is in the game as a mercenary. Anybody can play with him.
Yeah, but he's a solo. Do you want to cover what you think is going to happen with Magnus or Carter?
I think we should do that in December when things are a little bit closer. I think that that kind of stuff is something that we need to have as a broader topic because there's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of things happen, and I think we should talk about those kind of things when they as its own show and its own topic. I think, and when Joe's with us.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so we are. So the plan for today, for the podcast, now that we sort of talked about what's going on and what we've been doing and where we've been and stuff and all, is to talk about painting and our motivations for painting. And if we have time for it, we'll also do some talking about getting into a new army and expanding, starting, and how you should start out and how you should approach getting into an army. Because, like, I know I'm looking at getting into Orgoth. And I've been playing Gators for the last month or so, or 2 months. That even though I sort of took a 2-week break in the middle, and I've had some experience in trying different point formats, and I have some ideas on that. But and Alec's looking at getting into Gravediggers, even though he refuses to admit that he's going to play them.
No, I will play them. I just won't.
You're going to play them.
I'm not going to play competitive.
Come on.
I mean, I'd be more likely to play Chimera, my son's Chimera, than I would.
Like he'd let you.
Yeah. Why do you think I'm buying him all the what do you call it?
He hasn't been coming out. He hasn't been coming out for games lately, so.
He's been having other stuff going on he needs, but
that's fine.
I just realized I didn't share the stream on the other Discord. So while you're doing that, I'm gonna share the. You shared it on the WC, WCL.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I announced it on 3 different Facebook groups, our Discord, and the WCL.
Okay. Sorry, to you guys who are listening, we are trying to. There's a big group in content creators, specifically in the War Machine area or a community that are trying to work together. So when we go live, we share. Maybe we'll hop in on each other so we can work together, collab, things like that. Build the whole community because what is it? The rising tide raises all boats. That's one of the things we're trying to do.
Yep, I did.
Okay. That's good. I'm glad you remembered. I know that, like we said earlier in the chat, this is our
I
third
did it
time.
as part of all the podcast announcement and stuff that we did, and I did do an update that we were moving to 8:00.
Gotcha. Good. Today was kind of
Hectic.
it was a snap cake a little bit.
Yeah.
How things wanted to go.
So how's your painting of your avatar going?
I think it's going pretty well. I've done several coats of the Menoth base, which is going to be I think it's I forgot, something tan. It's in the new color scheme because they're getting away from things like Menoth and stuff like that, and it's going pretty well. I've started adding in some sanguine, did some silver. Cool. I did some boiler black on his boiler. I did some silver on some stacks on his weapon. I'm one of those people where I really thin out my paints, and so it's going to take multiple layers. But also, what I can do then is I can blend it on the palette if I want to make it thinner, thicker, if I want to blend it with something else.
Yeah, I'm the guy that base coats in straight out of the pot, and then I thin out for shade and highlight.
I get what you're saying there. I understand, but I feel like I always put it on too thick that way. So yeah.
I'm pretty good at understanding the thicknesses, and I will, if it needs to be thinned out, it'll be thinned on my palette. But the pot paint is coming straight out of the pot and not going onto a palette first.
All right. Yeah, I know someone commented a stream or two ago that they didn't like that I was pouring paint onto my palette and then adjusting from there. And I was like, well, I like actually doing dropper bottles because I waste less paint that way.
Oh, I hate dropper bottles
so much. I know. Yes, you and I have different painting techniques.
Yes, we do.
Which is fine. But yeah, that's one of the reasons I do like dropper bottles.
I have already started saving pots that I've emptied.
Okay, I told you
to take the dropper bottles and for the new paints and put them into old pots.
And like I told you, I'm going to 3D print those things for you so that you could do like 5 or 6 at a time without having to touch them. And you just flip it upside down, put it in, and it'll convert straight from dropper back into a pot. So you're good to go.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm thinking about the strategy I want, because I'm actually not very happy with the current P3 pots. The old ones were great, but the new ones have a cheaper, softer cap. It has the hole in the hinge, so the hinge tends to break. And so I'm considering other bottles currently, and even for my old paints.
What he means by when he says new, he means 10 years old.
Yeah.
Well, probably 5 years old.
5 to 10 years. Yeah, 5. Probably closer to 5.
So both Jay and I have a wide variety of P3 paints that we have had for a very long time.
Yeah.
And we baby them along.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely have seen. I do agree with you that the quality of the lids went down. But yeah, we could always do. I mean, heck, if you wanted, we could 3D print pots.
I do not want to 3D print pots.
Why not?
Because
you could 3D print everything. It's the future.
Because 3D printed resin is printed in layers, and even though they fuse together, there's still air that gets through those. Because you can put water droplets on a 3D printed print. And it will transfer down through it, and it will soak into the 3D print, even if you print the print solid. And so I really am not interested in 3D printed pots because the paint will dry out. I do want to get. I am going to do a plastic option. I'm interested in possibly using it to transfer said paint that is an option that I will consider. But
You could always do a hollowed out with a resin inlay.
yeah, no,
Or you could do, I could print it
it's
in using the AMS. I could do
or I could get
one
100 pots
wall.
for $20 off Amazon.
Yeah, but think about if you didn't want them to be too tall, if you wanted them to be wider with a better mouth. Just saying.
I've been researching. I haven't
All right.
ordered any yet, but I've been researching, and I think I can get them 16 to 20 milliliter, decent top, maybe with So I do like ProQuill, but I don't like their dropper bottle. I like the alternate top that is sort of the
Lift
it's like
open.
the sort of like the flip open sort of craft paint kind of top.
Yep.
I do use that and I like it, and I've found some dropper bottles that have that as an option, so I might do that. We'll see. I have not decided yet. I haven't had the funds to do a first order just to see if I want to try and transfer my existing P3 into them, because I do waste a lot of paint with the current tops.
Yes, I will agree with you there. I will tell you though, I print vases or
Mm-hmm.
vases, yeah, what, for my wife as well as doing other things.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do PLA followed by TEP or yeah, TEP or TPG, sorry, TPG, and then another layer of PLA, neither water nor air gets through it. But
Yeah,
to
no,
do
I'm
that,
good.
you need to be using, the AMS, and it adds on print time. But the only reason, like I said, I know that is because I've been doing that for her vases and her
Yeah,
cultivation stations for clippings and stuff.
yeah, I'm good. But thank you very much for the offer.
You know me. If I can 3D print it, I will.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about your motivations for painting. What excites you about painting models? Why do you paint? What kind of models do you like to paint?
All right, so
And
I should preface this that being unpainted is fine. If you are just assembled at the table, great. I love having painted models. That it might
um,
be like my army. I love having painted and I love playing against painted. But also what motivates me to paint is the look of the model. I have painted so many models with horrible rules because it was a fun model to paint.
mhm.
So that is my primary is if it's a fun piece to paint, I will paint one, sometimes two of them. Why? Because it was fun to paint. Um, Now I do obviously like I will be painted for a tournament and things like that, so that will push me to get painted. But my number one passion to get me to start putting paint to a model is if I like the model. If it's fun for me, if it's something I haven't done in a while, or if I've never done it, oh man, you cannot take me away from that. And as one of our mutual friends says, that's the TISM and the ADHD. And I was like, well, you're not wrong. Um, but yeah, that's one of the things that like if I am motivated to paint, like because so I painted. Just to give you an example, I have painted 5 Menite Archons.
Yeah, you're insane.
I currently own 3,
I mean,
and of
I've
that,
painted two, but I painted to full FA. And I would paint a third one if I could get my hands on one, because I'd sold the two that I had previously.
so I have 3 right now because I sold the other
Yeah,
ones.
yeah,
But the third one I have is one of the ones where Privateer. I asked them if they could do it in orange resin,
yeah. I
and
missed out on
they
those.
did. Dude, that was me pestering them, and then they're like, "Fine, we'll do it." And then it was popular, and they did it for other people.
Yeah, I missed out on those. I wish I
So
had gotten one.
I only have one of those, and I haven't actually painted it yet because I need to tape it really carefully when I prime it and everything to make sure it's just right because I don't want to screw that one up.
Yeah,
But that's also ones where I'm going to be putting LEDs into it
yeah, yeah.
to uh, to make it glow. Because again,
Absolutely.
that's me. But no, yeah, if it's a cool model, like the slaughterhouse, we knew the rules for the slaughterhouse before it came out, and I bought 3 of them. Why? Because it was a lot of fun to paint.
You had
Uh,
3 of them at one
I
point?
bought, yeah, I bought 3. Don't judge me. I thought like I had the one that was just standard painted, and then I did one where I did the purple in the center, and I had my painted Ashith Magnus mini crate
Mm-hmm.
that looked like Ash from Army of
Yeah, yeah.
Darkness,
Yeah, I have one painted.
and that was in the front. That's the one actually that I sold to Richard. And then I had one that someone wanted it in they wanted it in like bright colors, which
Mm-hmm.
kind of hurt me a little bit because it was so like, it
Yeah.
was like the idea of like 80s, 90s orange neons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I painted that for them and gave that to them. And I was like, here you go. Um,
Ugh.
yeah, I bought 3. Just like
Yeah.
I've owned 3 shrines. God, I've actually owned more than 3 shrines.
Yeah, you have.
Um, I like, yeah, if I find a piece and it's going to be fun to paint, I will buy multiples of it just because.
Yeah, I'm so sad that I never got a slaughterhouse, and it's still my one of my wants.
Well,
Yeah, no, we're not gonna talk about
I always
that.
look for you, man. No, I
Yeah,
always look for you. If I can find one
yeah,
and they don't want $250 or
yeah,
$300
yeah,
for it, I will buy it, and
yeah,
I know you're good for the money.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's something I will get eventually, I'm sure. Um, but yeah, I definitely wish I had gotten one. I always, when I was spending my hobby money, it was always on something else, and it's the one model I don't have for Grimkin, and
well, I
it's
mean,
the one model I don't have painted for Grimkin.
it's like with the
Ooh,
shrine. They sold less than 250 of them
ooh, and you know what?
because. Go ahead.
Actually, I have another model that's not painted for Grimkin, which is sitting on my paint desk, and it's actually
What's that?
the not that one. Where is it? There you are. So it is actually Heretic, and so I have the original plastic Heretic that came in the box, and I recently got my hands on a resin and metal one that's
Oh,
slightly
that's one I have.
larger,
Yeah,
slightly bigger, slightly more the
detail.
details slightly sharper. And so I have one of those I have to paint too. So that's the only other model that I don't have painted that has ever been put out, including all the mini crates for Grimkin.
I didn't paint the mini crate that was the Menoth guy. I blanked on his name now. Pyrus. I don't
Yeah,
have. I never painted. I
I
own
have
it, but
him.
I didn't paint that.
I have
And
him.
then I still haven't painted Isaiah.
Okay.
But I painted. I mean, you saw my Grimkin. They're
Yeah.
like they're above tabletop quality, and that's because I took them and painted them for my wife because that's the way I get her to play with me. Is I paint her a
Yeah.
very pretty army for her. Yeah.
Yep. I've seen them.
Um, no, yeah, man, painting Grimkin were a lot of fun.
They are, and that's why I really hope that the old Umbry is Grimkin themed Kador, which if
That would
you
be so good.
dude, if you look at the me and Taylor were talking about this yesterday. If you look at um the uh plan they put out like a
Hmm.
month or so ago, and you look at the old Umbry and you zoom in on the shadow of the model of the miniature or the model they put there, yeah, I swear to God, it's Old Witch with 2 crows,
Ooh,
or some caster with 2 crows, roughly the shape of and like a smoke trail.
man! If you sadly because he went through the gate, it can't be
Yeah,
Vlad's son. But
can't
can you
be
imagine
Vlad's
if
son,
it was
but it can be Vlad's son because uh it's not Vlad and Sorce's son, but it's Vlad and Anne's son can be in it because he's been raised in the Umbry um the
old ways?
Trapezki ways, and he's been and Yana the Bearcaster was sent to Umbry to basically be his bodyguard and tutor.
See, I thought maybe then it might be for him. I was hoping he was going to be a Menite, raised in the old ways. But no, I guess
Nope. He would be
old witch.
Umbrian. Yeah.
Well, okay. Hold on. The Umbrians followed the old
right.
the old faith.
Right. Well, Vlad did, and the Lelius Umbries did. But you got to remember that Queen Anne is his mother, and she is not a Menite.
That is true. She's. I have thoughts.
Yep. She's probably if one of the new gods, she's probably a Themerite.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't surprise me if she's tied to the Umbrian old god stuff. That it sounds like the old Umbri will be.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, so my motivations for painting. So like for example, I'm painting Orgoth right now, and I will be buying an Orgoth army very soon, from Richard, and if if that falls through and he decides to keep them, because it is a good army, I will be slowly picking up an army over time. It's going to be my winter army project, even though I do have to, in November when the new Khador stuff comes out, have to paint 2 avalanches, the 2-player starter box, and a Yana still. But that will get painted because I'm going to be playing Winter Corps for December through probably like February or March until I can get enough Orgoth finished to be able to switch to them for the spring and early summer, and I want to hopefully get them done before June, which is when Old Umbri is supposed to release.
Yeah.
So that I can be playing them and have everything painted, and then start picking up Old Umbri and paint Old Umbri for the end of 2025 and 2026 going forward.
So then, what is it? Painted or painted that motivates you, or is it the mob?
That's a large part of it. So I've been painting a long time. I started a little bit. So the first model. So I bought a couple of models and did some really bad painting myself. But the real start of me painting, besides just hobby kits and stuff when I was in 5, 6, 7, 8, was in 1989 for Easter. My parents got me some Citadel models and some acrylic paints. And I started painting and basically spent 10 years just painting for myself and building models and converting models and doing crazy conversions and just painting them how I thought they should be painted. And
so that would
learning
be for fantasy, right?
There was some fantasy in there, but I started out with the Rogue Trader and the first Plastic Space Marines. And so I did a lot of painting with that and had a lot of fun painting that stuff. I did get into. I was playing 40K when Warmachine got released, and I did end up buying some of my first Warmachine models with the thought that I could convert these into 40K models. And then about a year later, with a couple of guys became the first press gangers in my area, and there were people I'd played 40K with, and they were like, you should try out this cool game, and I tried it out. And then a couple of my other friends tried it out, and we all decided to play, and so each of us picked the 4 factions, and I had some Khador stuff, so I played Khador, and I've always played Khador since, which is cool. But the reason I paint is because I love models. I can't tell you how many games I've owned models for. I can't tell you how many games I've played. Different games, different reasons, and I just buy models because I love models. And so I probably have all of the Dusk casters except for Seraphil, and I have 2 versions of Tyrus. I have Hazaroth. Hazaroth is sitting right here on my desk right now. Primed black and dry brushed white, because I'm thinking about trying to do some contrast stuff on them, even, and trying to get contrast to work in a way that I like it. I'm also always been a painter, and so I've painted every kind of technique or style. Like I started with layering. I've done wet blending. I've done painting with oils. I've done two brush blending is sort of my style now. I sort of use a combination. I approach painting from the way you're supposed to paint feathering or two brush blending, where you start with the middle colors and then you paint shadow and highlight. I actually have started doing. I paint the middle colors. I highlight almost up to the top. I add shadow and then I add the final highlights, and I find it's more thematic and it helps me get a better amount of contrast across the model.
Okay.
But painting for me isn't yes, there is some of, ooh, that's a cool model, I want to paint that model. That is, and I always find models easier to paint that have that kind of aesthetic to me. Like, for example, if you're watching YouTube right now, this is the Harusk alt model, and I have always wanted to paint it. It is about half done. I need to basically do the highlights, do a couple of I've basically highlighted it, shaded it, and now I need to highlight it back up and do the final effects and things. Mm-hmm. And this model is awesome. I wanted this model the second I saw it, and I didn't realize the faces were as cool as they were because they were painted black. The actual paint scheme is sort of opposite of how mine is. Mine is all the faces are red, and then all the armor details and stuff are black, where on the actual official paint scheme, all of the armor details are red, and then all the faces are black. So, but I mean, I love painting, and painting is what I do to relax. It's what I do to calm myself. I'm an ADHD guy. I have anxiety. I have all kinds of issues, depression, things like that. And the thing I've always done for over 30 years now to center myself is paint. And that's why I paint. But because of that, I'm a play it painted kind of person. I do play stuff unpainted, but it's usually either like new things I'm adding to an army, or a new army that I'm just starting out. I'm trying to figure out how to play with it, and once I figure it out, I will switch to a painted army and then finish painting that army before I start putting it back out on the table. At the same time, where you said you want to see people playing and you want to have them, even if they're unpainted, and I understand that not everyone is a painted person like me, so I'm going to run into unpainted armies. But I'm the kind of person that believes that you should always be working on an army, and the reason I'm playing an army is because I'm painting that army. And so even if an army isn't finished and not everything's painted, the next time I see you, a couple more things should have some paint on them. They don't need to be finished.
Oh no, I get that completely. I think that's a GW, not GW, but a fantasy or a 40K thing, because I feel like that got rammed into our heads that you should always have painted. Always should have painted.
Yeah, no, not at all, actually. So from I mean, I started playing 40K and I started collecting and painting 40K in Rogue Trader. I played 2nd edition. I was working for GW from 2nd to 3rd. I played 4th competitively in a club. I played 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. 10th. I just played some 10th recently. So like I've played those games, and yes, the current community is very much a play it painted.
Hold on, I did 3rd through 7th.
Mm-hmm.
That was, and I played at official GW stores, and maybe it was just
So to play at official GW stores, you had to play with painted models. That is 100% true. But the community wide, it actually didn't start until the Nova Open and comp scores for 40K really started. Until that was when the community switched to being play it painted, because there started to be a comp score that involved painting. And so part of your tournament score and your overall score was based upon having painted models. It wasn't necessarily having great painted models, but did you show were they painted with 3 colors? Do you have a certain amount of effort? Is the base finished?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
there
yeah.
flock on the base and it's not just painted? Is there did you shade the model? Did you get a couple of bonus points for that? Does the colors look cohesive and together? Or have you painted all the skin, all the metal, all that kind of stuff? That stuff didn't really become popular until the first Nova Open, which happened roughly 2010, 2009, 2010,
Yeah.
because that was
I
part of the
remember.
Nova Open scoring, because I was there because it happened to be in my backyard.
I see. I
I
didn't realize it started at Nova Open. I just remember
Yeah.
that becoming.
Um
I
it
thought it was bonus
it was
points. Was it?
it was Warhammer Fantasy, so there was always like a best painted in the
Yeah.
RTTs in third, fourth, and fifth, and
Mhm.
so it was encouraged, but it wasn't required, and so it
Yes.
wasn't part. It didn't actually start being part of your painting score like the current um, GW system is until the Nova Open in the 2010. Um, I actually, but when I said by my backyard, I didn't mean it was actually in my backyard. It means
No, I know
I'm
what you
from
mean.
Northern Virginia, and that's where it started. So,
Yeah,
but
I remember. I felt like it used to be a bonus. It started as like a bonus points you could get for your army or for your tournament score, and then it slowly went from. I
and
remember one of my buddies
in
hated to
Warhammer
paint.
Fantasy, it was a thing, and Mike Brandt, the guy that started Nova Open, who is actually um, the convention coordinator for Games Workshop now, actually took it from Warhammer Fantasy and started applying it to 40K. And because 40K worldwide is a much more commonly played game, especially in the U.S., that's when it became popular. And when he transferred over, he actually started applying it to the RTT system.
What I was gonna say is that I just remember one of my buddies who hated playing painted. He just wanted to play because he used to jump armies so
Oh,
much, and
my
he.
my nickname in fourth was Jails Unpainted.
Well, no. So, I was gonna say is that he said he's like, oh man, he's like these are first bonus points, and now they're. He's like, just wait. Eventually, you're gonna have to play painted outside of a GW store, and everyone like kind of laughed at him, like, no, man,
Yep.
only GW stores require that,
Yep.
and
GW
now there
stores
are
and Adepticon.
yes. Well, now yeah, now there's a lot of tournaments where
Yeah.
they
Oh,
really,
um,
really, really want you to play painted.
if you play an official GW event, or an official like you go to Nova or you go to Adepticon. Well, Adepticon you have to
Mhm.
play painted, but if you
Yep.
go to any of the big GW majors, you get points taken off of your overall score, and you can't win overall if you don't have a painted army.
Yep, I know. Well, it used to be bonus points, and
Yeah,
now it's
it's
required. And
mainstream. Yep.
it's I just remember him talking about that. He was so frustrated with that, and I was like, man, you gotta just paint. And
Yeah.
instead, he just paid people to paint his armies
Oh
then,
yeah, you know, and that's
and that
totally
was.
valid. And I still think that's totally valid. And I have been a commissioned painter in the past. I think that's
I mean,
totally a valid point.
I painted 1850 points of Necrons right before I left
Hmm.
Germany. So no, I think it's interesting where like I kind of feel bad sometimes because there are definitely people, especially now, being a dad and having to do all this other stuff. I understand where it's hard for some people to like get painting done,
Yeah.
and because you have to make it a priority. It's like, well, do you want to paint or do you want to play? Do you want to, do you want to paint or do you want to, I don't know, sit on the couch with your significant other?
Yeah.
Or maybe you have to do like additional stuff at work or something like that. So I get where people complain and get
Yeah.
frustrated with it, and I feel bad for them.
Which is
Uh,
which is
and I'm
one
not
of the
trying to gatekeep
yeah
people.
yeah
Like I understand, but I
yeah.
do love seeing a good painted army. But
I
also
agree.
by the same token, when I hear people like, oh, you have to play painted, and then they play on a really shitty table,
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Like, step it up on all sides. Don't
Yeah.
just.
I mean, I'm of of the philosophy that, and maybe it's because it's worked for me, but um, making painting part of your habits. So even if it's you just sit down and paint a face,
Mhm.
or the armor on one model, or the all the silver details on a bolt gun. For those people that are playing 40K, for example,
Mhm.
um, even if you just do a little bit every day, over time your army will get painted, and it may not look the best. It may take a long time, but the more you paint, and really understanding painting in my opinion, comes down to two things really, and it's really not what people expect. One of them is you need to do it often, because you're not going to get good. You're not going to be able to paint within the lines or paint well until you've developed brush control. And brush control is being able to take a piece of paint and put it on the model where you want it to be. And it could take you 1 or 2 years of painting semi-regularly until you have that. The other thing is color theory and understanding what colors look good together and why you put a red next to a blue, or why you pick a muted purple next to a teal black. Or, for example, the model I'm painting right now, I'm using reds, purples, blue blacks, the what's it called? The blighted gold, a dark silver, a light gray, and then I'm about to put some like stone kind of color on it. And the skin I'm using is the sort of tanned flesh color for P3. And if I was to do a brighter red, I couldn't use the purple, or I couldn't use the blue. I'd have to use a different color, and I understand how those interact. And until you understand that, unless you're painting a model based upon a color scheme that you've seen in a book, or you've your favorite sports team uses, you're not going to understand which colors work well together. And so it really becoming a good painter. Yes, there's practice. Yes, there's understanding technique. Yes, there's using good paint. Yes, there's understanding how like shading and highlighting works, and what brushes you should be using, and what stiffness of brush works for you, because it doesn't work the same for everybody. But the core of being a good painter comes down to two things: brush control, which takes 1 to 2 years at least of regular painting to really master, and understanding how colors go together and what colors look good next to each other. And that's all you need to do to be a good painter.
Well, you don't have to. Well, you could be a good painter and picking bad colors just because those are the colors you want.
Right, but
there's a friend of ours who is painting. Mm-hmm. He's a very good painter, but he is specifically he's grabbing almost the exact opposite of what he should on some of his pieces, because he wants that.
So yes, there is. I do. But yes, I agree, and I express to him every time we talk, and he talks to me about this color scheme that he's super excited about, and I think is terrible. Or every time he does this really, really, really cool multi-layer cherry gloss effect, and I'm like, if you would take 2 extra steps and added a little bit of bronze before you put the gold on, and a little bit of silver on top of it, and then done your cherry effect, it would actually be shaded. But we know who we're talking about.
Whoa! I wasn't giving any details.
I have no problems with some details. But and people can know who that is or not. But yes, I agree. People can choose to paint bad.
Not bad. Their own way. You can be a technically amazing painter, and it might not be what other people want. But if you have the ability to blend, if you have the ability to to have your brush control, it doesn't matter if you're grabbing crappy colors. Like, should I be doing the orange at this point in time? No, but I also know that when I'm going to be doing the other heats to go into it, I know that I have to do the orange now, because when I do the outer part, my brush control, because of the damage on my spine, is not going to be happening. Yeah. So sometimes you got to work around, or sometimes you just make it go wild. And
I mean, and I think so. Here's the thing. So like, it also depends on what you're painting and understanding the genre of what you're painting. So like, if you're painting Warcaster, and Warcaster is in a neon future cyberpunk kind of world, painting stark colors and fluorescence and brightness and a mix of light and shadow, that is awesome. And even though that wouldn't work on a fantasy model, in my opinion, or on like a knight or a caveman, people do paint that stuff that way, and that's fine. But to be a good painter, all you really need, in my opinion, is to understand the basics of color theory, so you understand how to create a color scheme or mix colors together, or understand what colors look good together just by seeing them. And we talked about this in an earlier podcast. There's the color cube, and I'll put it in the show notes for this when I release it both on YouTube and as on the podcast. That's a really great source as a way to get ideas for color schemes if you struggle with color. And I personally have not picked them up yet. I'm actually sort of waiting to have them be suggestions of things I can give my family to give me for Christmas. But
who won the color cube in the group?
I
can't remember.
No.
I know Joe bought it, but I know
Joe brought one. JD maybe?
Okay.
I don't remember. I don't remember who got it. Joe would know better or Taylor would know better than me. I don't remember. But yeah, so it's just having the control to put the paint where you want to put it and understanding the colors. The technique, detail, understanding will come later, but just having those two basic things will really help you and paint your armies and get your armies looking great. And also making painting part of your daily routine, even if it's just to do one thing. Sit down for 10 minutes and paint a face, or paint some armor, or put a streak of metal on a shield. I mean, even if it's just that much, and that's all the time you have, as long as you get in the habit of painting every day, eventually you'll get used to doing it, and it'll be something you can do to relieve stress or to focus on something else for a couple of minutes, so you can go back to your busy and daily and hectic life.
Yeah, kind of like working out. You have to do it. No, I mean I know, people.
I know, and I didn't for years and years and years, and now I'm paying for it.
But, no, I wasn't trying to make a dig. I just meant it's everything's a perishable skill. If you don't do it every day, then it's
I agree. Some of it's like riding a bike. So like I feel for me, because I've been painting for so long, I can take a break for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, come back and almost be better at it than I was, because I wasn't as stressed as struggling with one technique that I couldn't master or was having problems with, or my brush control was a problem because I was ruining brushes or whatever. I can take a break and come back and sometimes feel like I'm a better painter just because I'm not as focused on the things that were going wrong for me at the time when I stopped.
I definitely can understand that.
Yeah. All right. So
for me, I know that. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
I was going to say that in painting, sometimes it's difficult if you have, if you're not doing well, to get disheartened.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that I used to be a very, very good painter.
Mm-hmm.
Like I used to be much better than what I is now.
Yep.
And I had a very traumatic injury happen in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost stopped. Well, I did stop painting for a long time.
Yep.
For 18 months to almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And I tried to come back in and paint the way I used to paint. And I cannot. Because but sometimes just getting out there and putting paint on a brush and just dragging it across a model, it might not feel like you're getting better, but you are.
Yep.
And it might look crappy, but you can always, that's a great thing about painting. You can always repaint.
Yeah, it's just paint. You can always paint over it. And if it ever
strip it and start again.
Right. And if it ever gets to a point where you think you're adding more colors is taking away detail or depth, you can always strip it and start again. Because it's paint. That is if I was to say there's a third thing to learn after brush control and color theory, in my opinion, to be a painter, the third thing is to understand that it's just paint and you can always paint over it. And a lot of people don't get that.
Also, don't take yourself too seriously. I'm gonna, again, not a dig at you. I just know that sometimes
Yeah.
I
Oh no.
like I will definitely look at. So I'm like, so as was explained to me, painters come in qualities of 1 through 5. I'm a 3. 3 is a good painter.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's really difficult when you look at a 4 or heck, if you look at a 5 and you're just like, damn, he is doing magic with that brush.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
then you go to try to do it and it just doesn't turn out.
the other thing is you have to think about why you're painting, and this is something that I don't think gets talked about enough. I am not a I'm not a model painter. I'm not a figure painter. I don't paint models to make them look beautiful. I have practice and skill, and I do have nerve damage in my right hand now. And my hand is slowly getting to a point where it's struggled to use for long periods of time. So I'm not able to paint for as long as I'd like to, and I definitely am not as good or as sharp as I was when I was in my 20s and 30s. But for me, I am not a model painter. I tried to be. I tried to be a competitive Golden Demon winning model painter for a long time when I was younger. But I'm what I would call an army painter. I want to have cool looking armies on the tabletop. And what I think is my base level is my level 1 or 2 is probably, it could be your level 3. It could be somebody else's level 4 for all we know. What I consider to be a tabletop standard, a barely tabletop quality model, most people consider to be done. At least the people that I interact with and the people I talk to normally. Like, for example, I went to Nova Open this year, and there were a lot of cool looking armies, and there was a lot of people that had painted some stuff, but not everything. There were some unpainted armies, there were some finished armies, there were some armies that other people had painted for them, and I actually won Best Painted at Nova Open. But to me, my army was maybe half done. Maybe half done. And there was a lot of stuff that was like I felt was barely painted and just base coated that people thought looked fantastic. And so it comes down to what you think, what other people think, and you have to be able to embrace what other people feel about how you're painting. And then at the same time, you also have to know why you're painting. And so for me, I'm not trying to get to that Golden Demon level quality anymore. I did that for 2012. I painted 5 models in 12 months and hated life and got nowhere. And then in 2013, I painted 2,000 models in a single year. So I want to paint the army. I want to have the cool looking models on the table. I want to see all my models painted and get as much of them as painted as I can. And since about 2015, I've managed to keep my collection at about 50% painted.
I had so much painted before we moved back from Germany.
I know.
I know. It's like I joked with my wife the other day, and she's like, "Is there going to be a point when it's not too soon?" I was like, "Nope, it's always going to be too soon."
Yeah. All right. So
I've gotten to the point where I stopped fixing them.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
All right. So we've been talking for about an hour and 20 minutes. Do we want to try and talk about the second topic, or do we want to wait and do that as a future topic in another episode?
Well, I think maybe we could wait for Joe on that one, unless you want to.
No, I'm good for waiting for Joe because he's starting Blind Bloods and trying stuff out. I know he talked about what his plans were and what he was going to do with them at the end of the last cast, but I would love to get his opinion on starting new armies and how you should approach learning to play a new army.
Oh, sportsmanship and playstyles.
Well, yeah. Well, some sportsmanship is somewhat important as well, but I'm more interested in, should you just jump into 100-point games? Should you start small point games? What kind of armies and what kind of playstyles would benefit more from starting at 50-point games compared to 100-point games? Because, like, for me, example, and we're just going to touch on this a little bit. For example, I'm playing Gators right now, and while I have owned Gators and played them off and on for many years, I've never really, really, really played them and never tried to play them competitively. They've always sort of been a project army when I feel like painting something else because they all have really, really, really cool models. And I'll play them for a little while, and then I'll go back to my main army, or I'll go back to whatever my next army is, or whatever. So, but since Nova Open, we've been playing in a casual league that prioritizes 50, 30, 50, and slightly larger games. And all the narrow events we've run so far have been 50-point games. And so I played my first 100-point game against JD last week with Jaga Jaga, using Gators, and there were so many models. The number of models and the number of support solos, and I had Jaga Jaga, Carver and Big Pig, and another lesser with a beast, and I could not handle it. I could not manage it. I could not focus and play through my turn quickly and understand what was going on, and I was just lost through the entire game. I had little things that I had played at 50 points in a couple of different armies that I understood how they worked and how they should function, but large swaths of my army, I was just lost and didn't understand what I was doing. And so with Gators, because it's a Hordes army, and I think of myself more as a Warmachine caster, and I had effectively 3 casters on the table, each with their own beasts, and that I had to maintain and figure out and focus. I couldn't handle the 100-point game, and so if I had played a 75-point game and upped it slowly, I could have gotten to 100 points where I could be functioning, playing well, and being able to play on clock as a 100-point Jaga Jaga army, but I'm not there yet. And so I think that it's important to identify if you're going to have those kind of situations and to build upon start out with the low points and escalate up your gameplay over a period of time. Or if you think it's just sort of like Winter Corps, I have no problems playing 100 points. But to be honest, I played 75 points of 50 and 75 points of Winter Corps for the first year before I ever switched to 100 points.
I think you and I are different in that. So when I decide to go into a new army, I will sit down with the cards, or when it was the app, I would sit down with the app and I would memorize them as if I was studying for a test.
Oh, I do that. I do that completely. That's all I do, is I look at cards when I'm not doing something that I have to be focusing on. I'm constantly looking at the app. I'm constantly memorizing cards. I'm constantly building lists. I'm constantly thinking about stuff. And my Jaga Jaga list is like V6 or something like that. 100-point Jaga Jaga list.
So when I do it, then I've played so many 100-point games, or it used to be 75-point games, that if you were to give me... So when I went from Menoth to Steelheads to Signar to whatever, as long as I know the cards, I can basically put it on the table. And the first game I might not do as great, but by game 2, 3, or 4, I'll be like dialed in on what it has to. And just because how my brain works, I need to see it on the table. I need to see them playing. And if I don't see enough of the models, I won't get an idea of how the entire army is supposed to play. So I have to jump into those high end.
I don't have any problems with that in Warmachine. Hordes, which is something I don't play and is a mechanic I don't exactly enjoy, 100% different. And the Hordes, I have to constantly think about, is my beast in distance? Am I able to force? What's my control range? On all those things, I don't think about it all in Warmachine. And the fact that I had 3 of the casters doing that, and then support for each caster, I could not handle the complexity. It was a struggle. And every one of my turns was 15, 20 minutes long, even after turn 1.
Gotcha. No, I understand that. That's I'm trying to remember what my first Horde army was.
Well, mine was Scorn. And
mine was Legion of Everblight.
And I don't have. Well, okay. So technically, mine was Legion of Everblight. So they released the starter boxes. And I started with Legion, and my buddy started with Scorn, and we both hated them. And so after the release event for the when they were first released, we traded them, and he played Legion, and I played Scorn, and we both loved it in Mark 1.
Gotcha.
And I've played Scorn twice, and I love Scorn. I understand how Scorn works. I think they're interesting, but just the level of playing with one main caster and 2 lessers, and I haven't really played. I have played a bunch of Hordes. I played Circle in Mark II. I've owned every single army several times, and have played them all. Trolls is really simple, but in my opinion, really boring because you're basically trying to play the same game over and over and over, no matter what's happening. Most
Yeah.
of the time, I don't know if that's true for Blind Bloods, but for old Trolls, that's effectively you played a brick and you wanted your brick to activate, and whatever the scenario was, you basically played the same game with the same thing, and you were just adapting slightly based upon what the scenario was.
Or your opponent.
Yeah,
Depending
yeah.
on,
Or your opponent, but overall, you wanted your battle plan to unfold the same way every time in every game, and I did not
yeah.
enjoy that.
You know what was actually well, there was one thing that Infernals. It took me
Oh, Infernals was great,
probably
but they
8 to 10 games to get them to work to
oh
work them for me. Like
oh
I didn't. That was one of the hardest ones
I
to get them to work.
I bought them at Lock and Load and played 20 games with them at Lock and Load and had a blast. They were so much fun. I understood the mechanic right off. I love the sacrifice mechanic. I'm a sacrifice player, anyways, and it just clicked with me. Yes, playing with some of the casters took some work. I understood Zadaroth right away. I understood Amadamos right away, but the other ones the other one I had problems with. I forget his name off the top of my head. I had to have someone explain to me the assassination, the caster assassination guy. I had someone explain to me how the combo worked, and then figure out how it worked for me, because I tend to tweak what people do.
Yeah, I don't think anyone should ever net list.
Yeah,
I think coming up with it on your own is...
Yeah,
which is, I always find it funny when I come up with a list and I put it out there and then it turns out to be a net list.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, I've played against Orgoth a lot in the past year, getting ready for Nova and other events and things. And so I understand how the list goes together. I understand how Harusk plays right now. I understand how Sabarth plays right now. I understand how you use the different casters. I'm really looking forward to... I actually ordered a Butcher on Sunday. And so I'm really looking forward to putting Butcher on the table and figuring him out, because a lot of people have figured him out and understand, and I have a basic idea of what he's supposed to do. I've played him at 50 points a couple of times, both on War Table and in person, borrowing some models and proxying him. But I'm really interested. I'm really excited about figuring him out and being competitive with him, and he's going to be one of my 2 competitive casters right out the door, I think.
Okay.
But and I'm excited about the January update, because I think Orgoth is going to have some change. There's going to be some changes, and how the army plays will change a little bit, which I think is exciting. Which is one of the reasons I'm getting into Orgoth now and starting to paint them now.
So you're not worried about them getting nerfed a little bit?
They're going to get nerfed. They are currently the top army, I think. I think Crix is going to knock them off that pedestal really fast, and then when Gravediggers come out, all bets are off for every army, I think. I think it's going to be really hard to balance how the game works. And the January update might have some stuff happen that we're like, why is that like that? That this seems completely wrong, and it's because that they're being balanced for the future Gravedigger army, probably. But all of that being said, I do think that I'm going to have to start with Orgoth and play small point games, play 50 point games, play 75 point games, move to 100 point games before I'm able to really sort of focus on them competitively. I know what's in the army. I know how the army should work at 100 points, at least in the current meta. I mean, I got my face stomped in by Harusk, both at the end of the alternate tournament to the Steamroller qualifier, and the unlimited event that we played on Thursday night. I lost it. I ran into Akers, which is probably one of the better Orgoth players. So I've seen him play them. I've seen our locals, JD and Richard, play them. I understand how they work and how they should be played, and what happens when you go first and what happens when you go second with them. But me actually taking the reins and playing with them, I think I'm going to have to take some time and figure it out, because it's going to be so different than playing Winter Corp. Because Winter Corps is a stand back and shoot army. It's not a get in your face army. And I really want Kador to be that, which is why I'm really hoping Old Umbry is that. And why I'm switching to Orgoth is because that's the kind of Kador I like to play. The get in your face, take some hits, and then hit back hard. That's the kind of army I want to be playing, and that's what Orgoth is. And I'm not sure that strategy is necessarily going to work against Crix. Crix is I hit you, they come back, they hit me back, and then if I'm still alive, I might have a shot to kill them afterwards. And so far, at least with Wintercorp, they haven't been alive after they hit me back.
Fair enough.
So, yeah. So, I think, is there anything else that you want to cover before we close up this episode? Episode 7?
No, I think we've done pretty well.
Yeah.
I think we're doing well. Why don't we close on us? Why don't you close us on out?
How's your painting going? How far did you get with your?
So I got Sanguine on there. I got the Boiler Black. I got the Cold Steel, and then I got the Infernal Orange. And I'm gonna let this all dry. I'm gonna look at it tomorrow in some naturalized light because right now I'm just coming straight through these LEDs.
Yep.
And we will see.
Yeah, I got Therian Vanek base coated and washed, and so she's ready to be highlighted and shaded in the future once I finish the current models I'm working on. She is what I would call playably painted now.
Now, you didn't stream tonight. You just recorded.
I'm just recording. So this video will be on. This is the video will be on YouTube.
Okay. So I'm hoping in the future to get you actually streaming as well, like I mentioned. I'm hoping to start streaming. Well, I won't be able to do it with this computer. I'm gonna have to actually do it with the computer I built for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully actually start streaming to YouTube, Twitch, and then there's another service that someone told me I'm supposed to stream to, and I can't remember.
I know what you're talking about.
All right, I gotta go because one of my youngins awake. So I will. Thank you guys so much for turning in.
Okay.
And I will leave this with you, Jay.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for listening. This has been episode 7 of the Atlanteans. You can find Alec on his Twitch channel, which is where we're currently streaming, Wracked and Confused, or on Instagram. You can find me on my Twitch channel. I will be starting streaming again in the near future. And I do have an Instagram coming. So thank you very much for joining us, and we will talk to you later. Goodbye.